Jordan Love yesterday in the locker room after practice. Spread it around. Take what is there. Get the chains moving. Joining us now, Matt Schneidman. You hear him every night right here on The Game, the Matt Schneidman Show, 6 to 7 p.m. Of course, he covers the Packers for The Athletic. He is brought to you by Miller Lite, Orthopedic Associates of Wisconsin. There's a difference. And by Rogers Behavioral Health. I understand, Matt, that you are training for the 2028 flag football Olympic team. True or false?
Me? Who'd you hear that from? That's false information.
Oh, I heard you were in training. You're still a young guy in good shape, and you love the game, know the game, that you're trying to put a team together, an elite team to compete.
Yeah.
No?
On the Brick and Stick podcast, I heard that.
No, I don't think I've ever uttered that.
False information,
Maybe
I guess.
you should. How was your flag football skills in college? You play at Syracuse at all?
I played a little bit of flag football. I was a decent receiver, not the best. I specialized more in basketball and soccer, though. I never played actual tackle football as a kid, probably why I don't know anything about the game and why I'm not a very good reporter. But I was more of a soccer and basketball and baseball player growing up.
Wow. Who would say that you're not a good reporter and because you never played tackle?
I heard that on the Brick and Stick podcast, too. Yeah.
Yeah, if we're just making stuff up that we said on the podcast, why not that, too?
Yeah.
No, but did somebody say that to you or about you?
No, I just made it up.
Oh, you did? Okay.
You really got to listen to the podcast, man. It's
Okay,
all right.
That's fine. All right. Well, I think you do an excellent job, but that's just me. Anyway, that said, let's get to the game this weekend. This is a chance for Jordan Love to really get back to turning things around in terms of his play. He's got a really bad defense he can operate against. Where do you think this thought of, shorter passes, get it out, take what's given is coming from? Is this a personal thing with Love, or was this a directive from the coaches?
Probably a little bit of both. No quarterback averages more air yards per pass attempt in the NFL than Jordan Love. He averages 9.9 air yards per pass attempt. But his discrepancy between that and, his average completion air yards, whatever you want to call it, air yards per completion, that discrepancy is tied for the second most in the NFL, which means, he is not getting enough yardage for as much as he's pushing the ball downfield on average. It's no secret. The eye test reveals that the deep ball has not been there. You don't need any numbers to tell you that. Obviously, last Monday night against the Raiders, there were a couple of those failed completions deep downfield to Christian Watson. I think the directive from Matt LaFleur, the desire from Jordan Love, whatever you want to call it, stems from the need to just keep the chains moving, sustain some drives, get the ball in the red zone. Packers are 6th in the NFL in percentage of red zone drives ending up in touchdowns, but 17th in percentage of offensive drives that have reached the red zone. So if they can sustain some drives, get the running game going, which will obviously be helped if Aaron Jones is back on Sunday, then maybe the offense can start turning some things around.
All right. John Runyon is getting roasted by some people on Twitter about saying the Packers offense will have shades of the Dolphins going forward. Let me play the bite, then we can react here.
Everybody keeps talking that we're young, but really I don't think that's an excuse. I think we're slowly developing and finding our identity. This is a way different team than we had. This is my 4th year. The first 3 years really veteran-led. Lean on those guys, but this year we got a really young squad, a lot of playmakers, kind of different offense too, kind of get the ball out in space and see what these young kids can do with it. And that's exciting. That's kind of what football is going to now. And I think kind of looking at like Miami, kind of their offense, I feel like our offense can and will have shades of that going forward. So I like the direction it's going, and it just makes for entertaining offense.
All right, what does that bite say to you, Matt?
Well, it says can have shades of that going forward. It's not saying it is that or it will be that. It's saying we can incorporate parts of that potentially going forward. I think the people overreacting to that is really a nothing. You should strive to have shades of the best offense going forward. I don't see anything wrong with that.
Yeah, but here's the thing. They've got Tyreek Hill. They've got all of the offensive power that they need. The Packers have young players. Do they have the possibility to become that? It's a wait and see still. And I think that's my problem with it is you look at this and you can say all you want to have shades, but you don't have the same firepower, not even close.
Yeah, but they already have shades of it. You look at the one of the most important plays from week 1 where Jaden Reed goes in motion and runs a corner route without, getting set at the line of scrimmage, and Jordan Love finds him for 18 yards on a crucial 3rd and 8 in the third quarter against the Bears. That's what Tyreek Hill does every single game. That's shades of the Dolphins offense. I'm not saying they have to be as productive as the Dolphins offense or put up 70 points or have the consistent output that the Dolphins do. All he's saying is he thinks they have the athleticism to incorporate some of the things that the Dolphins do in their own offense, and they already have. So what he's saying of we can become shades of that, they already have.
I would like the other part though, like the 70 points and the
I know
tons of yards and the,
And then why have they struggled so
when
much
can we
in the
get that
first
part?
half?
Because
Why has this team struggled so much in the first half? Because you look at what they've done, right? Second half, they're in the first. I think they're first in the league when it comes to points scored in the second half. First half has been a slow start. So, why have they struggled so much in that first half? Because it's going to be crucial when it comes to Sunday.
Yeah, one of the big things is getting behind the sticks. And, I don't know the exact numbers, but both Love and LaFleur talked yesterday about getting themselves in too many 2nd and long and 3rd and longs and what they call get back on track situations. Because, for example, that play against the Lions where they're trying to make the comeback and Jordan Love has the backwards pass and it loses 11 yards on first down deep in their own territory and they're automatically in a 2nd and 21, or a holding penalty or a false start. And you're getting in 2nd and 15 and 2nd and 10 and, too many 3rd and longs and not 3rd and manageables. Then people say, well, why aren't you running the ball? Why isn't Aaron Jones getting the ball? Why isn't A.J. Dillon getting the ball? Well, because if you're in 2nd and 21, you can't run the ball. You have to pass the ball to try and get out of that. So part of the reason they're not scoring in the first half, among the myriad of reasons, is because they're not being efficient enough on 1st and 2nd down. And they're trying to play catch up with the chains too much and not getting back on track. And the domino effect that has is when the offense isn't on the field long enough, it doesn't give the defense enough rest. And we saw against the Lions how that hurt them because the defense just started falling apart because the offense couldn't put together drives.
I've seen this all the time in media, is that whenever you invoke somebody else who's either a good player, a great player, or a good team or a great team, immediately people attack you like, how dare you compare yourself? You're like, nah, I wasn't comparing myself. I swear. I just said shades of. I mean, come on. You're like, once you do it, people just jump on you. It is unfair, but it's just the way it works. Okay, let me change over to Joe Barry and the check for getting out of these bad matchup plays like Preston Smith on Devontae Adams. He said, we need a check for that. What did you make of Joe Barry's comments this week, Matt, about we need something to get out of that? I said, but, well, you're the guy that's running things. Get a check. Where do you come down on this?
Yeah, I wasn't in on Joe Barry this week because I was in the locker room looking for something else, and locker room availability got pushed back. So it was, same time as coaches. But, Matt LaFleur kind of said the same thing. In an ideal world, you want a way to get out of that. But at the same time, what check is there where you can switch to an ideal matchup before the other team snaps the ball? Like if you get
timeout.
Well, yeah,
that's an emergency. That's your emergency.
If it's in the second half, no.
Well, the question was, what's the check? Timeout's not a check, obviously. So if Preston Smith's lined up against Devontae Adams, what can you say or do? Now, I think they should use a timeout. I
do too, Matt.
Really?
In that situation, absolutely.
Yeah. So the point is, in an ideal world, you can say, oh, let's match up, switch Jair Alexander onto him. But then Preston Smith's now guarding someone on the perimeter. And that was Matt LaFleur's point. You'd rather Preston Smith closer. You don't want Preston Smith on Devontae Adams at all. But sometimes other teams just scheme you up. The best solution is to call a timeout. Why wouldn't you call it? I want to ask you this before I make my next point, Czabe. Why would you not use a timeout on, whether it's Devondre Campbell when you have 2 timeouts left, 5 minutes left against the Falcons. The Falcons driving. You're up 2 on 3rd and 3. Devondre Campbell against Bijan Robinson ends up in a first down on the game-winning drive. Or Devontae Adams, 2nd and 10 driving late in the third quarter. Packers are up 3, I believe it was at the time.
Yes.
3 timeouts left. Why wouldn't you use one of those 3 timeouts?
Because I'm a firm believer that timeouts are coupons for 40 seconds of additional time in the second half. First half timeouts, whatever. Second half timeouts, they're the most valuable thing in all the world in football. And so therefore, when you have all 3 going into the final 3 minutes of a game, you're God. You can stop defense. You can stop another team with almost a 0 possession in terms of time expired by calling timeout, making them punt. You force them to try to get aggressive, maybe throw the ball, throw an incompletion. Then you got one more timeout in your back pocket. If you just use even a single timeout in the second half, you're in a much weaker position. This is just my opinion on this. Not everyone agrees. Obviously, you don't. But I feel strongly that your better strategy in the second half is to never use a timeout to avoid a delay game or a bad matchup. It's just me.
Well, if it's going to result in such a mismatch, like in my opinion,
And it's an automatic gain like it was?
If it's an automatic, Matt LaFleur said the best case scenario in that instance was a 10-yard gain. So the best case scenario is a first down that keeps the Raiders drive moving deep into Packers territory into the fourth quarter.
That's a tough one.
That play ended up being the biggest play on the eventual game-winning drive. If you want to say, let's save our timeouts for – what was that?
Does LaFleur not believe in calling timeouts either in that situation? Did he?
Well, apparently not. That's why I'm saying you should, because guess what? If you want all 3 timeouts for when you have the ball down 4 points with 2 minutes left, you might not need to be in such a dire situation if you had called a timeout earlier. Like LaFleur's point in general, I understand what you're saying, and I don't entirely disagree, but you want the timeouts for really important moments late in the game. Well, guess what's also a really important moment? When you're at risk of giving up an explosive play because the best receiver in the league, the best route runner in the league is against an outside linebacker. So I get wanting to be picky for when you're down 4 points late in the fourth quarter, but guess what? You might not be down 4 points if you use that timeout in that situation in the third quarter.
So what if it wasn't that big of a mismatch? What if it was like Bijan Robinson split wide against Devondre Campbell?
You could have still used a timeout.
You still should have.
That's still a mismatch that can screw you.
So any skill position mismatch against a linebacker, you're going to call a timeout in the second half.
Depends on the situation. If in both instances, the other team went empty, caught the Packers in a mismatch. In one instance, it was about as big of a mismatch as you can get with Devontae. The other one, it was a 3rd and 3 with your inside linebacker on the perimeter against one of the most explosive running backs in the league that helped continue a drive instead of force a field goal, milked a bunch of more time off the clock. Every situation's different, but in my mind, both those situations warranted a timeout with how many the Packers had left.
Was there 3 minutes left in that, right? With the Bijan Rob,
3 minutes and 3 seconds left. The Falcons had, I believe, a 3rd and 3 from the Packers 32-yard line, maybe.
To me, that's where you use a timeout, Czabe. It's time, score, situation, understanding it. And I know where you're at with it, and I don't completely disagree with it.
You are on my porch selling encyclopedias. I've already closed the door. But I love you. I'm not mad.
That's fine. You can close it, but you're wrong. That's what I'm saying. You can close the door, but you're not going to be able to read the encyclopedia, and you're going to lose out on valuable information. So I'm just saying right now, I could sell ice to an Eskimo too.
You're a Jehovah's Witness on my front porch. Now I'm angry. Get off.
And you're not going to need
coming behind me too. So just get ready for them.
If you want to save all those timeouts for the end of game, you might not need them if you're winning at that point. If you stop them on the plays we're talking about. Because if you stop them on that 3rd and 3, you're forcing maybe a 50-yard field goal attempt. If they miss it, you're up 2. Why do you need 2 timeouts if you're up 2?
Like everybody, when it comes to their beloved football, I believe what I believe.
Fair enough.
Perfect.
And it's hard when you're firmly on what you believe. It is what it is. All right, Mr. Schneidman, today we will listen to you 6 to 7 p.m. You'll be on with Kuhn as well, your regular hit with him.
Yes, sir.
And here we go. God help this team if they lose to the Broncos. Am I right about that? Can we agree on that? we disagree on timeouts? Do we agree on God help the Packers if they lose this game?
Yeah, I mean, it will rightfully be a sky is falling mentality among this fan base on Monday morning. And while the season obviously wouldn't be mathematically over, you can't lose these 2 games in a row.
Yeah.
So, yes.
It'll be bad. All right, very good. Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, guys.
Matt Schneidman brought to you by Miller